Welcome everyone to Deck Support. It's a lovely Monday. I just want to know if you are in chat, say hello. I want to see who's watching today. Today is going to be a fun day, I think. We've got 3 decks on the bracket. We've got a 2, we've got, let's see, we've got a 3, we've got, let's see, a 3. So we've got a 2, a 3, and a 3. It's better than last week, which was all threes, which I think is going to be a trend. But it's nice to see you. Oh, Benji, hello. Quinn, hello. Let's get started. Today, we are looking at Geek Beardley's deck. Pronouns they, he. So this will be either his deck or their deck. I already have it pulled up. It's called Planar Project Soups On. Before we do anything, let's take it out of sinful mode and put on visual spoilers. This is a Guillaume deck. Okay, let's take a look at some notes. Believed bracket is 2. I'm suspicious. But let's hear what the goal and theming of the deck is. This is a plain themed deck using only cards from Strixhaven, excluding Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Command Sphere, and Command Tower. It's a Witherbloom deck wanting to win through life gain drain, pass tokens, and blossoming Dog Beast Overrun, or commander damage by giving Guillaume counters from Witch's Clinic and Willow Dusk. Guillaume is also used to control blockers and attackers, protect key creatures from board wipes, and politics. Okay, maybe I do take it back that it's bracket 2. It does seem to have a lot of restrictions, but people get very creative with restrictions. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for popping in. Okay, weaknesses of the deck. Card restriction due to theme, including lack of food generation other than Guillaume, somewhat limited removal, board wipes, and efficient card draw. Reliance on Guillaume's ability to protect. Okay. Well, let's see. Guillaume is 2 in Golgari, a legendary creature troll warlock that reads Trample. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Pay 1 and sacrifice a food. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. This is interesting. I think right off the rip, I think that the cost to the commander's actual power and toughness is really good. Like getting a 5/3 for 4 mana, especially in Golgari. I should say Witherbloom because this whole deck is Witherbloom. Okay. And also has text on it that say trample, which means that 5 is way better than before, than a 4/4. And it creates tokens on the end step, and you can sacrifice a food, pay 1, and give something indestructible. It taps it, but that's not really important. It means that you've got token production, damage, and on top of that, you have token production, protection, and damage all on one commander. This alone might actually skew how limited your deck actually functions. It seems... let's see how much actual reanimator is in here before we say anything. Okay, let's look at Professor Onyx. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Her tick up is you lose 1 life. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls. Each player may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. And that's -8. The second ability is -3. 6 mana. Loyalty starts at 5. So you could basically cast a board wipe. Well, not a board wipe, a reasonable board wipe on 3, and you get card advantage with 1. It's kind of pricey. It's still a pretty good engine for life loss. Let's Before we do anything else, we got to look at the lands. 37 lands. You pass the vibe check for lands. Also, notably, a lot of basics. A handful of non-basics, but oh, command tower. I thought the deck didn't have a command tower. It does have a command tower, friend. Okay. A lot of snarls are a little bit on the rough side in terms of dual lands, but with a lot of basics is actually very possible. Underground Stadium, two or more opponents, that's just a good land. Witch's Clinic gives life link, and I know this is a life gain, life drain sort of, and then Witherbloom Campus. I think this is just for flavor because it's a tapped land. It's a dual. Let's see here. Add 1 mana of any color. You spend this mana to cast your commander Scry X, where X is the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this game. I wonder if there is any, like, reanimator in here. Just a quick glance. Okay. So, I don't see, a ton of life gain, so I'm guessing here that the Guillaume is the main way to protect stuff. So let's look at the creatures. Accomplished Alchemist is basically a mana dork that cares about life gain. You can tap it, add X mana of anywhere, one color, where X is the amount of life gained this turn. It's a little pricey, but it's got a thick toughness, and Guillaume wants that extra mana to protect things. The thing is you want creatures to enter, so I'm guessing they mentioned a little bit of a token synergy, I think. Pest token and Blossoming Dogbeast Overrun. Okay. Let's see if there's actually like a reasonable token strategy so that the food actually has a good way of protecting its creatures. So far, I think it's passing the vibe check that it's a 2. Beledros Witherbloom. Flying at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control, activate only once each turn. This is cool. It's 7 mana though, for a 4/4 flyer, so that's not a great trade, but it could give you double the mana that you already have. It only untaps lands, so your mana dwarfs won't be affected, and honestly, paying 10 life is not difficult once you get into the late game. We'll see. Blacks, Vexing Pest. Other pets, pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders you control get +1/+1. When Blex Vexing Pest dies, you gain 4 life. This is literally like a tongue twister. I don't understand why I can't get all these words out. Okay. It also functions as a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card put into your hand this way. So this is a little bit of card advantage. I feel like there's a good balance here of token production mana and like card advantage. And also a way to make the tokens a little bit big. So there's options here. Blood Researcher. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Blood Researcher. Okay. I mean, this is good depending on how much life gain's actually reasonably in the deck. If it's not food related, I would say it's a little bit on the strong side. Life gain in general is like, it's kind of like Reanimator, is that it sometimes pilots itself. It gives you such a cushion with its basic ability that it's hard to go wrong. It's hard not to get a ton of value out of it. Okay, Blossoming Dogbeast. Whenever Blossoming Dogbeast attacks, you gain 2 life. Then creatures you control gain trample and +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. This could be a very scary. This is what they meant by Blossoming Dogbeast Overrun. You kind of save it until, but it has to attack. So you have to put it in a turn before, you have to give it haste. Let me just take a quick look to see if there's Greaves in here. No graves, but there is an arcane signet and a command sphere. Oh, I think what they meant that Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Command Sphere, and Command Tower are not. Oh, Vet Play, thanks for the follow. I think what they meant, I misunderstood. I think what they meant is that the Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Command Sphere, and Command Tower are not part of Strixhaven. Yeah, I misunderstood. Got it. Callous Blood Mage. Benji says that the Beledros Witherspoon is hard to keep alive. Yeah, it's hard to keep this, but your commander also just says sack of food, give it indestructible. So even if you, I guess you can overextend, right? When you cast it on this turn, pay 7, because you can immediately pay 10 life, untap all your lands, and now it's protected. I think that obviously a path or swords will get it, but it's actually, with Guillaume, it actually seems really hard to guarantee a kill on this thing. Okay, Callous Blood Mage. When Callous Blood Mage enters the battlefield, choose 1. Create a 1/1 black and green pest token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. You draw 1 card and lose 1 life. Exile target player's graveyard. This is a good way to make another pest. It's also card advantage. It's bad card advantage unless you can blink it. Yeah, Benji, if you're running this as your commander, I can understand. Okay. Double mana every turn. That's crazy. Especially if you ramp up really quick to get it. Especially in green, you could do it. Demagoth Woe Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. When you sacrifice Demagoth Woe Eater, each opponent discards a card, you draw a card, and you gain 2 life. I mean, this is like a huge creature for basically 4 mana. 7/6. It also gives you a sack outlet for those pests to gain the life that you need. Interesting. Dina. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Pay 1, sacrifice another creature. Dina Steeper gets +X+O until end of turn, where X is a sacrifice creature's power. This also is like a good sack outlet for this pest if you want a little bit more life gain. And when you gain life, you got a drain effect. Especially early on in the game, you can play Dina before you play your commander. And depending on how many low-cost creatures you can cast, you might have a decent amount of food. Eye Twitch. Flying when Eye Twitch dies, learn. That's a keyword I'm not familiar with. You may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand, or discard a card to draw a card. It's just a 1/1 flying bat. I guess that it's good, like, for a trigger with Guillaume to make a food. It's just a low-cost baddie. Hi, Carillion. Okay. Ezarut Channeler. Reach. Creature spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. This is going to be huge for all these big cost creatures. You can reasonably play this card, ramp up to it. There's a lot of really big cards that you can ramp up to that like ramp up even more the life gain. You can ramp up to this guy, and then all your bigger spells cost even less, and Beledros will be able to untap your lands to make sure you get as many creatures out, which will trigger Guillaume, which means that you'll make a ton of food, depending on how effective your turns could be. Gnarled Professor, Trample, when it enters, learn. So I don't know if you're actually able to use lesson cards in Commander. That's a question I don't know. I'm going to throw it to Benji. Benji, Can we use lesson cards? I figured that if you can use stickers, you might be able to use lesson cards, but I know that you can't grab cards from outside of the game typically with Commander. They can only loot. Okay. 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 So it's like a decent loot. That's not bad. Okay. Honor Troll. This is also Trample. It's also a 5/4. That's not bad. Honor Troll, Vigilance. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1. Honor Troll gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. So this bad boy enters and is a 5/4 in Commander, because typically on turn 3 you'll have about 40 life. And it has Vigilance, which means it's a good attacker, good blocker. Yeah. Keen Duelist. At the beginning of your upkeep, you and target opponent each reveal the top card of your library. You lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. You put the card into your hand, reveal this way. Card advantage, life loss that doesn't negatively affect you. Marshland Bloodcaster. Flying, pay 1 and a black rather than pay the mana cost for the next spell you cast this turn, and you may pay life equal to the spell's mana value. How do I not know about this card? I feel like Benji would know about this card. Benji always knows about a card like this. How is this? It's just the next spell you cast, and you got to pay 1 and a black, tap it, so you have to wait a turn cycle to get rid of Summoning Sickness, but then you can just play whatever. You could literally go turn 5 this, turn 6 into Beledros for 7 life. And then another 10 life to untap your lands and do something else crazy that same turn. And Guillaume's out. That's easily 3 or 4 creatures on that turn. That's easily 3 or 4 food. Go on, Benji. Why don't you care for it? Moldering Carrack. Trample, lifelink, 3/3 for 2 and Golgari. I can see some of the restrictions here with it all being Strixhaven. There's certain cards that I would say are like suboptimal that you would play here to keep in theme, right? A lot of the mana curve's not super great. Also, is Keen Duelist even a Strixhaven card? Let me look at their printings. Huh. Keen Duelist is Strixhaven? That's crazy. How did I not know this? Okay. So yeah, I feel like there is like some restrictions on the creatures. They're not like the most ideal. Sedgemoor Witch, Menace, Ward, pay 3 life. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 black green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. It's 3 mana. You get a 3/2 with Menace. Ward. Back when they still used Ward. Okay. Sprout Back Trudge. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Trample. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may cast Sprout Back Trudge from your graveyard. This is interesting. You could reasonably attack really hard with this creature, and if it dies, you can just bring it back depending on how much life you gain that turn. Interesting. Yeah, Sedgemoor Witch, if this was a legendary creature, I'd build it. I think it would be so fun. Okay. Unwilling ingredient. Menace. 2 and a black. Exile unwilling ingredient from your graveyard. You draw a card and you lose a life. Okay. Valentin. Dean of the Vein. Menace, lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black-green pest token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. The pest tokens are pretty prevalent with a lot of these different cards, and there is like payoffs for life gain. There isn't that much life gain, though. There are payoffs for life gain. There's a handful of lifelink cards, and then there are the foods. I don't think you want to trade off the foods for life gain because they're better as protection. Menace. Whenever you gain life, you may pay black. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Whoa! Vanewitch Coven. Ooh, Valentin has a backside. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trampled to end of turn. Oh, wowie. This actually could be like huge late game. Thanks, Benji. Okay. Vanewitch Coven is actually really, really cool. I think this is a cool card. Wandering Archaic is just an excellent card. It's a good way to counterspell when you're not in counterspell magic. It's a good way to get free value off of your opponent's tapping out to cast an instant or sorcery. It's incredible. And its backside I've never used. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land and or instant or sorcery card from among them, then puts the cards they revealed this way into their hand and the rest in the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player gains 3 life. I have never played. I also didn't know this was Strixhaven. Oh, hi, Noah. Okay, Willow Dusk. Pay 1, tap, choose another target creature. Put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you gain this turn, or the amount of life lost this turn, whichever is greater. Activate only as a sorcery. This is really cool with Bellatrix because you can put 10 counters on something. Witherbloom Apprentice. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Whenever you cast or copy an instant spell, you gain 1 life. Okay, so I imagine there's some spell slinging here. Maybe the creatures are mainly like payoffs for life gain, and the life gain will be linked more to the instant or sorcery cards. I'm so excited for us to go back to Strixhaven. It wasn't a big set that I knew very much about. I think I might do some research on it. So being able to find out about the demographics and the archaics, that would be really, really cool. Okay, sorceries. Abundant Harvest. Choose land or non-land. Reveal the top card of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that into your hand and the rest into the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a good way in a spell slinger deck. It's a low cost card, and on top of that, it puts a land in your hand. It would be nice if it could put it into the field, but it probably wouldn't be 1 mana if it was. Basic conjuration. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. Gain 3 life. So this is a sorcery that gains life and filters out a creature card. Crux of Fate. Interesting choice here. Destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragon creatures. It's like a pretty decent board wipe, but it does not necessarily protect your stuff, which is usually the reason we use Crux of Fate. But the limitation is Strixhaven, so I understand. Culling Ritual, this is really, really good to produce a lot of mana to maybe cast Belladeros or maybe Guillaume quickly. It also is like a Hail Mary for like an Ezerut or what's the one that gives everything trample, the 3-mana one. Where's it? Blossoming Dog Beast. This could be like a good way to like filter into a big turn with this, with Culling Ritual. Cultivate, just get some lands. Deadly Brew. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If you sacrifice a permanent this way, you may return another permanent from your graveyard to your hand. It's a good way to like clear off the board with like scary stuff. The thing is they get to choose what they sacrifice. So that's not great. And you get to get something back, but you don't get to reanimate it. So it goes to your hand. Demonic Tutor? Dude, I think this is gonna push it up from a bracket 2. Noah says that he's really excited for the lore stuff. Apparently, Lorwyn's set features a class of Strixhaven student exploring it, so we'll get some more tidbits sooner rather than later. Ooh, I did not know that. Okay. I see a Demonic Tutor and I see a Natural Order. Questionable if this is a bracket 2. However, we'll still assess. Devouring, Demonic Tutor is just a tutor. Devouring Tendrils. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. When the permanent you control dies this turn, you gain 2 life. This is like a cool way to kind of send something into battle to die. You can also use it to like get rid of something. There are a lot of top-heavy creatures in this deck, that could get some damage in. Ecological appreciation. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creatures with different names that each have mana value X or less and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, shuffle the chosen cards into your library, and put the rest onto the battlefield. Ooh. It's X2 and a green. Each have mana value X or less. So I wonder what you would pay X into. Maybe 3? 3 might be good for you for the mana conversion, so it's only 6 mana. There's a lot of really good 3 mana targets. There are also a lot of good 1 and 2 targets. I don't think that I would go up to 4 necessarily for 7 mana. I mean, Daemogoth Woe Eater would be good if you had some fodder already out. Okay. Essence Pulse. You gain 2 life. Each creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. This is like an excellent board wipe for what you're trying to do. I think it works. It guarantees at least -2/-2 just with the spell itself, but with the passive life gain, it might be 3 or 4. You can like guarantee some pretty decent board wipes here. Healing Technique. Demonstrate. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. You gain life equal to that card's mana value. Oh, this is really cool. You could get a lot of life and get a lot of stuff back. The same thing with Incarnation Technique, except it's like a reanimator spell. You mill some cards and they go straight to the battlefield. This goes to your hand, but both of them have Demonstrate. So if you let another person do it, you can do it twice. Natural order, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature card and put it onto the battlefield. This is like crazy. You could just hit so many things in your deck for so cheap. And the pests are green creatures, so you can make a token, sacrifice it, and go get, Beledros. You can get Sprout back, Trudge straight to the battlefield. It's pretty crazy. It's a crazy card. Pest Infestation. Destroy up to X target artifacts or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest tokens. With one of this creature dies, you gain a life. This is really good because it's removal and it's a good way to like put some stuff out. And the rate for this is actually really incredible. You do pay the X into the amount of pests you get because it's XX in green. But honestly, just going up to like 5 mana on this, you get to hit 2 target artifacts and get 4 pests. It's pretty good. Primal Command. Choose 2. Target player gains 7 life. Put target non-creature permanent at the top of its owner's library. Target player shuffles their library into their graveyard into their library. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. There's a lot of consistency here on creature selection. There's like a really good way to sort of get creatures that you want readily in this deck. Whether if it goes to graveyard or dies, there's good ways to put it back into your hand. There's good ways to find them out of the deck. There's good ways to kind of like use creatures effectively in this deck, I think. It also gains you 7 life. That's not nothing in a life gain deck. Regrowth. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. It's like E-Witness. Revival Experiment. For each permanent type, return up to 1 card that creature of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose 3 life for each card returned this way. So originally when I was looking through this deck, I was looking very quickly to see if there were a lot of like notable reanimation spells, forgetting that this is like a very Strixhaven heavy like deck. So there are a lot of reanimation or recursion spells that I'm not going to notice right off the rip. But it does have a lot of recursion, a lot of reanimation, especially with this. It's 6 mana, but you get each permanent type, and you gain 3 life for each one that you get. Sign in Blood is just good card advantage. Witherbloom Command. Target player mills 3 cards, then return a land from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn, and target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I mean, it's life gain, it's recursion of a land, maybe. It's also removal for 2. But it has to be mana value 2 or less. It's pretty tough. This card's pretty tough. Let's look at the instance. Baleful Mastery. It's a great exile spell, especially when you have to stick to a theme. Fortifying. It's also exile, and it has alternate cost, which, you make someone draw a card and it only costs 1 and a black to exile target creature or planeswalker. Fortifying Draw. You gain 2 life. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain. This is like an excellent combat trick in this deck because there's going to be a decent amount of life gain over the course of everything that you do. You can wait until no blocks are declared and just blow someone out. So this is really cool. Infuse with Vitality. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch. And when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. This is like really great with the mana conversion here because you can sort of protect something as it kills something else. So that's really, really cool. And you gain life with this as well. Croson Grip. Split second, destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's just good removal. Mortality Spear. This spell casts 2 less to cast if you gained life this turn. So for black and a green, destroy target non-land permanent at instant speed. It's hitting Assassin's Trophy abilities as long as you gain life. Plumb the Forbidden is just a pretty good draw spell, especially if you have tokens and fodder. Especially if you have those Pessmites, you'll gain all that life sacrificing them and draw that many cards. Putrefy is just good removal when on a restriction. It destroys an artifact or a creature. Rust Rebirth. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with less of mana value and put it onto the battlefield tapped. This is a great way to ensure that you can rebuild if you have Beledros out and everyone's after Beledros and you don't have enough mana or food to give it protection. You want someone to expend a kill spell. You can target Beledros and then bring something big out afterwards. Snakeskin Veil. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control against hexproof. It's a good way to protect your stuff, especially your commander in this situation. Tend the Pest. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, create X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. This could be huge with Fortifying Draught. You can sort of attack, deal damage with this huge creature for 1 green mana, and then you can tend the pest and sacrifice that creature and make a bunch of pests in response. You could also do this if someone targets to remove something. This is really, really cool. Village Rites. It's just a good way to draw some cards. Sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Arcane Signet is just good mana. Mana Sphere is... I think in most situations when I'm thinking about what mana rocks I'm going to play, I don't play Command Sphere anymore. I think the conversion of 3 mana to add 1 mana of any color of your commander's color identity is just not worth it. It's not a good trade-off. I think the talismans are better. In most situations, they're better. In obviously in a deck that wants to sacrifice and recur permanents, it might be better to do Command Sphere because you can draw that card and recur it. But in most situations, I think, especially in a 2-color deck, I would just play the talisman instead. Letter of Acceptance. This is sort of the same. 1 mana of any color, but it's good ramp. It's a good way to ramp. I think in general, if this deck wasn't restricted to Strixhaven, there are a lot of better options, but this is like a good alternative. Pestilence Cauldron. Discard a card, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain a life. Pay 1 and tap. Each opponent mills cards equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. Pay 4, tap, exile 4 target creatures from a single graveyard, draw card. The second ability is actually really good because you could reasonably mill people for a good amount in this deck with how much life you gain. And then there's Soul Ring, Strixhaven Stadium. Add colorless, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a point on Strixhaven Stadium. Then if you have 10 or more points on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. Oh, this is so reasonable with the amount of Pessmites that you're going to sacrifice, and like a good way to sacrifice these things. Oh, that's really insane. Seems like a lot of buildup, and it takes a lot to make happen. But honestly, I think you could do it in a turn. Let me see if you have a good sack outlet. I vaguely remember one. Okay. There doesn't seem to be a just super easy, repeatable sack outlet that I can see. So maybe it's not that crazy. But if you plumb the forbidden, oh my god. Okay. Blight Mound. Attacking pests have +1/+0 and have menace. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black and green pest token. With when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Okie dokie. Okay. Let's go look at the bracket decision. I have the updated brackets here. The expected is 2, which is no longer restricted to precons. Let's see here what it says and if that makes sense. Players expect decks to be mechanically focused on some cards chosen to maximize creativity and entertainment. I would agree. This deck meets that criteria. Players expect win conditions to be incremental, telegraphed on the board, and disruptible. I think that I would half agree with this. I think mostly putting out pest tokens give people the indication that you're going to sacrifice them. And usually if there's a big turn with a lot of pest tokens, you can reasonably expect something crazy the following turn. However, there are some Hail Mary spells that are low cost in this deck that could completely change the tide of the game drastically without setting up. Like, you could reasonably pay mana. What was it? You could Incarnation Technique for 5. You can Natural Order for 4 and just put the biggest creature in your deck into play. It's kind of what's crazy about Natural Order is that it's such a blowout. So I would say that win conditions are incremental and telegraphed. I would say for the most part, but not entirely. Players expect gameplay to be low pressure, proactive, and considerate, letting each deck showcase its plan. I would say that for the most part, this looks slow. I think that it's a sort of thing that is very, very much going to struggle to win very quickly. But it could do some oppressive stuff at some point. I just don't know yet. To play at least 8 turns before anyone wins. No game changers, no mass land denial, no chaining extra turns, no 2-card combos. So I would say that it's actually surprisingly close to a 2 in my opinion, based on this. I think that it's actually really close, but let's look at upgraded and just see if there are some differences here. Upgraded decks are powered up with strong synergy and high card quality. They can effectively disrupt opponents. Win conditions can be played from the hand in 1 turn, usually because of steadily accrued resources. I don't think so. I don't think you could win on a given turn. Unless it's like 1v1. I don't think you could do that. Gameplay to feature many proactive and reactive plays. I do think that it does have a lot of reactive plays. It has a good way to initiate. To play at least 6 turns before anyone wins or loses. I would say that it falls somewhere between 8 and 6 for sure. 1 to 3 game changers, I saw 2, and they're both incredible. The question is how incredible in this deck. I think, honestly, the Natural Order is crazier in this deck than the Demonic Tutor. The Demonic Tutor is going to get you any card you want in your hand. Natural Order is going to get your best creature to board. That's the thing. That's the only thing holding me back. I think, honestly, if those 2 cards were not in this deck, I would easily slap a 2 on this. But the Natural Order actually scares me so much that I'm like, that's just Beledros, which is like the best card in your deck. That is your Overrun effect, your Craterhoof effect with life gain. That is your cost reduction. And all of this with a might. Not a might. A pest. Chat, what do we think? What are we thinking? I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm leaning more that this is a 2. I think they're right. I think this is a 2. I think it's a high 2, but it's a 2. It's limited by the amount of creatures that are actually really effective in this deck. The synergy is a little weird in general. I think that there's like a spell slinger sub theme, but most of them are sorceries. The instances are really, really good, but they're not the best in their class. They're sort of like hodgepodged. So I am going to say that this bad boy is going to stick to a 2. Okay, I need some water. Let's take a look at the next deck. We've got Matt or Brick Frogger. Pronouns he, him. So we will refer to this as his deck. Ooh, our first deck on Archidekt. I cannot navigate Archidekt nearly as well. I'm a Moxfield girly for the most part. I don't dislike Archidekt. I'm just not mostly on it. So please forgive me if it takes me a while to configure this. Okay. Expand. Haha. Grid? Haha, perfect. Stepping away from my stream. Bye, Benji. Miss you. Hi, Megan. I didn't even see you there. I do like Moxfield a lot more. Okay, so the believed bracket for this deck is 3. It's a showcase in weird Agatha Soul Cauldron interactions with an Enchantress value pile as a backup plan. Wins with assembling 3-piece infinite mana combos or just generating some big plant or zombie tokens. Cauldron being removed more than 3 times. Deck can be a bit slow. I don't think anyone's gonna, in a bracket 3 game, remove Soul Cauldron 3 times. I just don't think that's happening. We've got Terra. Is this Gruul Terra? Or is this 5-color Terra? How do I get out of here? Okay. Yes, this is 5-color Terra. Okay. Terra says, when Terra enters, mill 5 cards, put up to 1 enchantment card milled this way into your hand. Pay 4 and Gruul, tap, exile Terra, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery. The other side is a saga creature that says, in the first 3 chapters, create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control. It gains haste. If it's a saga, put up to 3 lore counters on it. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. And then the final saga chapter says add double white, double blue, double black, double red, double green. Exile Esper Terra and return it to the battlefield. Okay. Agatha Soul Cauldron. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them all have all activated abilities of all creatures. Okay. Creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha Soul Cauldron. Tap, exile target creature from a graveyard. Then when a creature is exiled this way, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Okay. That is sort of the theme. It's surrounding Agatha Soul Cauldron. I've seen a lot of Agatha Soul Cauldron decks. I think they're really cool. But before we do anything else, we have to quickly run to the land section to see how many lands they're running. Okay. You barely made the cut, friend. I see that there are 36 lands with MDFCs, which is cutting it kind of close. You're playing 5 colors, and I see that the lands in here are the ones that you can get untapped or are fetchable. I am going to look very quickly at your instants and sorceries to see if you could take advantage of that. Enchantments, instant, nope. And I don't see a single sorcery. Oh, okay. Nope. You do not take advantage of fetchable lands, but at least you have all your colors. That's good. Okay. Agatha the Vile Cauldron. It makes sense to run her. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha the Vile Cauldron's power. This effect can't reduce the mana in... Oh, okay. Sorry, I got distracted. This effect can't reduce the mana in that costs less than 1 mana. Pay 4 and Gruul. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and haste until end of turn. Onyxia. Onyxia's busted, friends. If you are running an enchantment deck, Onyxia's busted. I cannot say it any other way. It's just busted. Other enchantment creatures you control have Menace. Whenever Onyxia enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it is a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types. Trust me, with token strategies, this card gets insane. A Stelly Reclaimer. Flying. When this creature enters, return target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this card. Okay, this is like a little bit of recursion. That's good. I'm seeing some activated payoffs. I'm seeing some enchantment payoffs. Usually when you go in multiple directions in a deck, they suffer. You want your theming to be very like cohesive and linear, that all the abilities kind of filter into like one game plan, or if it has to diverge, you want a lot of cards that do both, so that you can guarantee being able to do it on a given turn. So far, I haven't seen enough to really know, but this is good recursion. I don't believe this is an activated ability. I believe Warp is an alternate cast cost. So it does not do the Agatha Soul Cauldron thing, and neither does Agatha the Vile Cauldron affect this. Bloom Tender is an activated ability, so... Vile Cauldron would make this incredible in this deck. Just a ton of mana that you can produce with Bloom Tender. Boromir, which is really, really huge here, that you can sacrifice any creature as long as Vile Cauldron's out and things have +1/+1 counters on them. You could potentially give your whole board indestructible. Notably, Boromir says whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. And sacrifice Boromir. Creatures you control gain indestructible and until end of turn. The ring tempts you. It's a combo piece in a lot of Ratadrabic decks. Delighted Halfling is a mana dork, so an activated ability. You can use 1 mana of any color to spend this on a legendary spell. That spell cannot be countered. Destiny Spinner. Creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. And it has an activated ability. 3 and green. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn. Where X is the number of enchantments you control, it is still a land. I'm not seeing a good way to put 1/1 counters on anything yet. But we shall keep looking. Devoted Druid. I'm checking to see if Agatha Soul Cauldron cares about +1/+1 counters or just counters. Okay. So Agatha Soul Cauldron does care about +1/+1 counters. Okay. So this doesn't actually, it's an activated ability, so it can, I wonder how this works. Would it, I think the way this would work is that you can put a -1/-1 counter on any creature that has this activated ability, and it untaps itself. I don't believe it untaps Devoted Druid on different cards. Oh, hey, Vet. Okay. Whenever Eidolon of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. You're playing enough enchantments. This is good. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, draw a card. This is just good. Fabral Elder. This creature gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. Let me look at the Oracle text of this. It doesn't have the Oracle text. Okay, hold on. Card info. So this is not even a +1/+1 counter. This is just +1/+1. So Fabro Elder would need a +1/+1 counter aside from the +1/+1 it gets from each color of permanence you control. It's another great way for like mana to be made. It could just blow out the amount of mana that it can do if you can manage to put +1/+1 counters on all of these things. Yeah, this is huge. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn, other than your first spell each turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Let's see if there's other zombies so far. Zombies. I'm not seeing a lot of zombies. Okay. I mean, it's a good way to just buff your little army. You cast a handful of spells, you put some zombies out. Glen Elendra. Sack Glen Elendra, counter target creature spell. This is just a really good activated ability. It has persist. So it leaves and comes back with a -1/-1 counter. Notably not a +1/+1 counter. I don't know how that works in terms of ruling, but I'm pretty sure a -1/-1 counter is a specific thing. That doesn't count as a +1/+1 counter. Yeah, this, if you could give this activated ability to anything, you could basically counter everything with your board, as long as you have blue mana up. Discard a card, transform Heir of Falcon Wrath. Activate this ability only once each turn. Flying 3/2. So you can just, how does this work? If you give this activated ability to another card, what does it do? Nothing? Chat, I need help. What happens if you give this activated ability to another card? Do they become a 3/2 flyer? Do they become Heir of the Night? Or does it just transform? It doesn't transform into anything in particular. I guess if you discard a card, it would transform Heir of the Falcon Wrath, which is this card. So you could discard a card and activate it on another card to transform this card. I'm not sure. Horseshoe Crab. Untap Horseshoe Crab. This one I know would, if you utilize this, it would untap itself. And if you give this ability to other cards, they would only untap themselves, not Horseshoe Crab specifically. Incubation Druid. Add 1 mana of any type a land can control would produce. If Incubation Druid has +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. Pay 3 green and adapt. Our first +1/+1 counter And you can give this ability to any of your other creatures, which is like good ramp. And it's self-sufficient. It puts 3 counters on stuff on its own. Joshua, Phoenix Dominant. When Joshua enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. It does have an activated ability, which is 3 and Boros, tap. Exile Joshua and return to the battlefield, transform under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. It is a saga creature. The first 2 saga says Phoenix deals 2 damage to each opponent. The third one says return any number of target creature cards with a total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Phoenix, then return it to the battlefield. So it kind of like recurs itself. Has a pretty good rate for 3 mana that does all this other stuff, and it's only 5 mana to transform it. Yeah, this is a cool card. Hi, Geek Beardly. I think you missed your deck review. But you can always watch the VOD, and I upload them to my YouTube channel as well so that you can take a look. Kenrith. All the activated abilities any one motherfucker can have. So 4 red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. 1 in green, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, which is good in this Agatha Soul Cauldron ability. 2 in white, target creature, target player gains 5 life. 3 in blue, target player draws a card. And 4 in black, return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield under its owner's control. This is just good activated abilities to give creatures, and it's a good way to put counters on things. Klothys, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Klothys isn't a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from your graveyard. If it's a land, add red or black, green. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Klothys deals 2 damage. I'm not exactly sure, other than mana acceleration here, for Agatha Soul Cauldron abilities. I think this might be a combo piece. Hey, Megan. Yeah, you could still submit it. You're not limited to just one deck that you can submit. I tell people to send them in. It's just depending on how many I have is how quickly I can get through them. I do about 3 of them a week. And depending on people's excitement about it, I might do these a little bit more often, depending on how they go. Okay. Molt Tender. Mill a card, tap to mill a card, and tap to exile a card from your graveyard. Add 1 mana of any color. This is like another way to produce mana if you can give this ability to other cards. There's a good way to mill. I don't really see a big mill strategy in this. I do think Klothys might be part of a combo. I'm trying to figure out what the 3-card combo in this is. If anyone in chat sees it, let me know. Overlord of the Baelmerk, impending 5, 1 in a black. Whenever Overlord of the Baelmerk enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, and then you may return a non-avatar creature card from your or a planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. This is another mill card, another graveyard card. I've seen like a handful now. There might be a sub-theme of graveyard recursion in here. Psychic Frog. When it deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker, draw a card. Discard a card, put a 1/1 counter on Psychic Frog. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Psychic Frog gains flying until end of turn. So this is like a really good way to exile cards from your graveyard and a good way to discard a card. Rona. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap Rona, Herald of Invasion. Tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Pay 5 and Phyrexian black to transform Rona. Activate only as a sorcery. On the other side, Rona says trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Rona, that source's controller exile a card from their hand at random. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Um, both Psychic Frog and Rona have activated abilities that you could use with oh my god, the Psychic Frog ability is actually really good. Because you can just put a 1/1 counter on Psychic Frog. Yeah. Rydia or Rydia. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Activated ability X and tap. Return target Saga card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. I mean, this is like recursion and it's an activated ability, so I think this is really cool with Agatha. Because it recurs the sagas that you would lose. I haven't seen a ton of sagas so far, but we're still in the creature section. Sanctum Weaver, tap, add X of any one color where X is a number of enchantments you control. There are a ton of enchantments, I imagine, in this deck. I've already seen a handful of enchantment creatures. So this would be huge if you can put 1/1 counters on everything. Selvala is just a crazy card. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card. If its power is greater than each other creature's power, pay green and tap, add X mana of any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. I feel like this is also part of a combo. There's a lot of mana production in this deck, and I'm trying to figure out if you're trying to activate Agatha the Vile Cauldron a million times. Setessan Champion. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. It's great card draw. It also puts a 1/1 counter on this card. So it could potentially get the ability. Fenrir says, search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Whenever you next cast a creature card this turn, that creature enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it. This is a good way to get counters on your cards. Draw a card if you control the creature with the greatest power or tied for the greatest power. That's the third ability. And this is a 3/2. Summon Titan, the first ability says mill 5 cards, choose as return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And the third one says until end of turn, another target creature you control gains trample and gains +X/+X, where X is the number of lands you control. This is a really good way to put stuff in your graveyard. I feel like there's like a sub theme of graveyard recursion with sagas in this. We'll see. Exile target artifact, enchantment, or tapped creature an opponent controls. This is Yojimbo, and that's the first ability. 2 and 3 says until your next turn, creatures can attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each of those creatures. So basically, Ghostly Prison for 2 turns. And then 4 says create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of opponents who control a creature with power 4 or greater. It's a 5/5 with vigilance for 4 mana. It's actually really good. Sun Titan. Sun Titan's just really good recursion for stuff 3 mana value or less, including lands on enters and attacks. It's also a 6/6 for 6 with vigilance and more text on the card. Tayum, Luminous Enigma. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter on it. Pay 3, remove 3 counters from among creatures you control. Put the top 3 cards in your library into your graveyard, then return a permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. This is like good recursion, and especially with the amount of counters you're going to be putting on things. Hopefully, various different -1/-1 counters is a good way to remove -1/-1 counters that you put on stuff like Glenalendra. It's a good way to recur something with that. Teshar, whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I'm guessing there are a lot of sagas in this deck, so I imagine that this is going to be very, very good. Tribute Mage. Whenever a Tribute Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 2 and reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. I'm pretty sure that's Agatha. Yeah, it's Agatha Soul Cauldron. It's just a way to consistently get her. Trickster Elk. Bestow. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk. Ooh, excuse me. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature token with base power toughness 3/3. This is just a good way to kind of elk something. That when it becomes a creature after it's attached. So you elk something, and then when that creature dies, because naturally if you elk someone's commander, they're going to try to kill it. Then you get back the Trickster Elk. So, and then there's a Vivi with all this activated mana. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Vivi and it deals 1 damage. I think, honestly, with the amount of mana you could potentially create in this deck, this could be crazy. The same thing with Zacama, which is the very next card. A lot of activated abilities that can basically kill the table. Well, kill the board. Zacama can deal 3 damage to target creature, destroy artifacts, enchantment, and gain life. And when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap all lands you control. So you could reasonably, if you can produce a decent amount of mana, cast this and get even more mana back. Both of these scare me in terms of what this deck is capable of doing. I'm worried about the bracket of this deck. It seems a little more... I'm trying to figure out the line here. I think it's probably a 3 so far from what I've seen. But we'll see. It's pretty heavy on creatures. There's like 38 creatures. And most of them are not actually enchantments. And most of them don't put counters on things. So I'm going to be looking for everything else to be putting counters. When Xenos enters, choose a creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Other than Xenos, the chosen creatures get -2/-2. When the chosen creature leaves the battlefield, transform Xenos. I need to look something up. Oh my god. Does a -1/-1 counter count as a +1/+1 counter? No. No, I'm trying to figure out if a -1/-1 counter is considered a +1/+1 counter for Agatha Soul Cauldron. Okay. It looks like they're different. Okay. Just making sure. Okay. When the chosen creature leaves the battlefield, transforms Xenos. It's flying, and as this creature transform into Shinryu, choose an opponent. When the chosen player loses the game, you win the game. Aggravated Assault is just a really good multiple combats spells for you pay an ability and you get multiple combats. You get them for each time you pay. Honestly, if it untaps creatures, you can use a lot of the mana dorks that are generating a lot of mana to keep paying for the Aggravated Assault. So this could be like a huge blowout depending on how much mana. All will be one deals damage when counters go on things. Annie joins up, double triggers for legendary creatures, and it deals 5 damage to target opponent or planeswalker and opponent controls. Awaken the Honored Dead is a saga that's first step says destroy target non-land permanent. 2 says mill 3 cards. 3 says you may discard a card. When you do, return target creature or land from the graveyard to your hand. Once again, more mill. Once again, more graveyard recursion. Surprisingly, a large amount of graveyard recursion in this. Binding the Old Gods. Chapter 1 says destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Chapter 2 says search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. And 3 says creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. Death Touch is not bad. It also removes something. And also, if you're recurring a lot of these sagas, you get these abilities again. When a Chthonian Nightmare enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy. Pay X an energy, sacrifice a creature, return a Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand, return target creature card with mana value X from the graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. This is really cool. Because this could be a good way to recur things to the battlefield with multiple creatures having this activated ability. It's mainly the bouncing it and putting it back into play that gets you more energy. You could reasonably do that with multiple creatures and get a decent amount of energy. Dredger's Insights. Whenever one or more artifact or creature leaves your graveyard, you gain 1 life. Whenever an enchantment enters, mill 4 cards. You may put an artifact, creature, or land from among the milled cards into your hand. Elspeth Conquers Death. It's a saga. First step says exile target permanent and opponent controls with a converted mana cost 3 or greater. Second one says non-creature spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast until your next turn. Ooh, Staxy. And then 3 says return target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a 1/1 counter or a loyalty counter on it. Frostcliff Siege. As this enchantment enters, choose Jeskai or Temur. Jeskai, when one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Temur, creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample and haste. This is a good way to give trample and haste. What are the colors of this deck again? 5 colors. Growing Rights of Itlimoc. When Growing Rights of Itlimoc enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform Growing Rights of Itlimoc. So this is like, I'm trying to figure out how you put the 1/1 counters on everything. I'm seeing a lot of enchantments and counters in general, but not a lot of them are +1/+1 counters. And I think, if I understand correctly, Agatha Soul Cauldron cares about +1/+1 counters. She doesn't care about other types of counters. Insidious Roots. Creature tokens you control have add 1 mana of any color. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, put a 0/1 green plant creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. I see a lot of ways to put like tokens +1/+1 counters. Like the zombies can have the activated abilities. The plants can have the activated abilities. Nature's Will, whenever one or more creature you control deals combat damage to a player, tap all lands that player controls and untap all lands you control. This could be a good way to filter even more mana into what your strategy is. Pernicious Deed, pay X, sacrifice Pernicious Deed, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. Wow. And you could give this ability to all those tokens that have +1/+1 counters. Phyrexian Reclamation is 1 in a black, pay a life, return target creature card from the graveyard to your hand. It's just good recursion. Polluted Cistern. Whenever one or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, each opponent loses 1 life for each card type among those cards. Whenever you unlock this door, mill 3 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to your battlefield. The first one is 1 in a black mana, and the other one is 4 in a black. Temur Ascendancy gives haste, and whenever a creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, you draw a card. Training Grounds makes the activated abilities of creatures cost 2 less, but can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana. Utopia Sprawl attaches to a forest, I believe. Yeah, it has to be a forest. And it adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. So you can choose a color when you attach it. Wild Growth is sort of the same, except it's just green that it produces. It adds an additional green. Muddle the Mixture, counter target instant or sorcery spell Transmute, which is an activated ability, I believe. Can you give this activated ability to... Exile target card from a graveyard when a creature card is No, it has to be a creature card. Oh, I guess Agatha Soul Cauldron is a good way to put +1/+1 counters on things on its own. So slow, though, because you got to tap to do it. Let's look at creatures with +1/+1 counters. Exile target card from a graveyard. You can give it this transmute ability. You could exile this Muddle the Mixture and give all your... No, you can't, because you have to discard it from your hand. Yeah, I don't think that works. Okay. I don't think this activated ability is one that you could give a creature, because it would give it the ability to discard from the battlefield if you exiled with it, which is just not something you could do. So it would have the ability, but it wouldn't be able to use the ability, I think. Sink into Stupor. Return target spell or non-land permanent to an opponent controls to its owner's hand. I love this card. It's just really good. It's like sometimes better than a counter spell. It is 3 mana to do it, though. It's also a land. Tear Asunder. Kicker, 1 in a black. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If this spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. Then we've got Grist. As long as Grist, the Hunger Tide, isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types. So in the graveyard, it's an insect. You can tick them up by their ability by 1, create a 1/1 black and green insect token, then mill a card. If an insect was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on Grist and repeat this process. You may sacrifice a creature when you do destroy target creature or planeswalker. That's the -2. And -5, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Which is good because there is like a graveyard synergy thing going on here. Tyvar, Jubilant Brawler. You may activate abilities of creatures you control as though they have haste. So you can tap things immediately to activate their abilities. Good to know. Tick them up by 1, untap up to 1 target creature. -2, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Don't know how many creatures that actually hits. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, it hits a lot of mana dorks, notably Agatha. Okay. Savine's Reclamation. This is just good recursion, and it has flashback. You can recur something with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And some Stomp is a good way to deal damage equal to the power of target creature or planeswalker you control. You can deal the damage. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. And it's also a land, so this is really good. I'm a little confused because it doesn't look like there's a lot of ways to put 1/1 counters on things, so I don't know how Agatha is going to reasonably activate these abilities. I see a lot of really cool activated abilities in a sub-theme of enchantments, which are really good, but I think that Agatha cares specifically about +1/+1 counters, so the Saga lore counters don't count. Let's go to the bracket decision. This, I believe, is a believed bracket 3. So let's look. Players expect decks to be powered up with strong synergy and high card quality. They can effectively disrupt opponents. I think this deck has no problem doing that. Players expect win conditions that can be played from the hand in 1 turn, usually because of subtly accrued resources. With the sheer amount of mana you could produce in a turn, I agree. That would be very possible. Gameplay, players expect gameplay to feature many proactive and reactive plays. I think so. I think not a ton of removal and not a ton of counter magic, but you're playing 5 colors, so reasonably you have to sacrifice some things. But I think that there is like a good proactive kind of strategy. And players expect to play at least 6 turns before anyone wins or loses. I think that this is pretty much in line with this. I would say that this is, without the +1/+1 counters, it's more of an Enchantress deck, which I think is still pretty strong. So even though there aren't that many game changers, I would still say that it's pretty much a 3. No Massive Land Denials, no chaining extra turns that I saw, and no 2-card infinites. I believe they mentioned that there was a 3-piece infinite combo, and they mentioned some plant and zombie tokens. Normally, I do 3 reviews, but I'm not feeling so good right now. So I think I might actually stop with 2 today. I'm so sorry if you came out for your review. I will do it next Monday, or if I'm feeling better sometime later this week, I might stream just that one. I'm going to figure out who to raid to, sweet people. Thank you for coming out. I need to figure out who I am raiding to. Probably Benji. I love a little Benji. Let's see who else. Ooh, Benji looks like he has a decent amount of viewers right now. Can I Play with
River.
Magic is, oh, but he's doing
Uh,
music today. He's not doing Magic.
yeah, and that's true. Heather
Okay,
was.
so it's gonna be Benji.
The future's worth fighting for.
Let's start that raid. Raid channel. I might start doing two, instead of three, reviews from now on. It's just like tough to do three decks back to back. I feel like my brain becomes mush after the second one. Again, I'm so sorry that we didn't get to your deck today. I don't remember who the last person was. That I'm so sorry, and you've been in the chat. I'm sorry we didn't get to yours today, but we'll definitely get to it sometime next week or later this week if I'm feeling up to it. I just feel really stinky, and I don't want to give your deck like stinky vibes. Okay. We are going to start the raid over to Benji. It looks like Filthy MTG Casuals are playing over there, and Quinn is over there, and Benji's over there for the breakdown. But thank you all so much for coming. Again, I am sorry that I didn't get to your deck. But I do want to mention that this stream is sponsored by Haven, which is a local table, a local LGS, local LGS. Um, it is a place where you can buy board games, D&D stuff, accessories, magic cards. If you are looking for that sort of stuff, you can type in !Haven into chat and you can get a link to their stuff. Okie Finoki. Thank you all, sweet lovelies. Have a good rest of your day. We are raiding now.
No, I think that's it. I'll pass priority.